Hello and welcome to Zabbix 6.0 LTS Workshop Week. During this week, you have the unique opportunity to learn from Zabbix experts and explore Zabbix 6.0 features on practice. My name is Victor, and I'm a technical support engineer on Zabbix. Thanks for joining this webinar. At the same time, feel free to visit the Zabbix webpage, zabbix.com/events, and sign up for other webinars and events. So, securing your Zabbix instance with user roles, permissions, and password complexity requirements. Security is always something that we focus on when developing Zabbix. And in this presentation, we'll learn how to set up a secure role-based access in your Zabbix instance to make your environment well managed and suited to your user needs. Zabbix 6.0 LTS introduced new password complexity requirements in order to improve the security by defining password length and complexity policies to prohibit the usage of easy-to-guess common passwords, making Zabbix more protected against potential threats. So, before we begin, let's talk a little about the concept of permission granularity. Permission granularity means that you are able to create different levels of access for users that have different roles. In this example, we have two different roles inside an IT organization. We have the Network Operations Center team and the Network Administrator team. Both of them require access to dashboards and maps as to the problems, latest data, and host sections. They need to know what is going on after all. But the NOC team have no need to access the configuration section since they are not responsible for that, while the network administrators are. None of them are allowed to have access to the administration section. They are not responsible for manage Zabbix users and groups. But both of them are able to perform, let's say, restricted API calls. The NOC team barely have need for those, but at the same time, they can be allowed to perform some GET methods to generate reports. Meanwhile, the network admin can also make use of the API with different restrictions. Like, for example, to use not only the GET method, but also create methods to perform some mass creation of hosts or graphs or whatever they want. You can see here that even though they have the same access to dashboards, it is possible to forbid the NOC team to close problems while the network administrators are able to do it. So it's really flexible. Granular permission is one of the key factors to work with multi-tenant environments, not only inside your IT, but if you are providing monitoring as a service, you can also separate it for your tenants, your customers, where each one of them will have a different requirements and they will be entirely isolated from each other. So let's say the requirements for one customer is that they want to access the service function for SLA calculation, while the other may want to use inventory and maps or to keep record of the infrastructure. And the third one may only want to have access to the common access to dashboards with problem graphs and network maps. So with granular permission, it is possible to keep the user experience cleaner and isolated for each one of them, even though they are inside of the same Zabbix environment. So how does it work? How do we achieve the permission granularity? Let's take a look on user roles and user types. Well, the user role assignment was introduced in Zabbix 5.2, providing to the Zabbix administrators the possibility to customize the user's access permission in a more granular way. By default, Zabbix is configured with 4 user roles, which have a predefined set of permissions, access permissions. So we have here the super admin role, the admin role, user role, and guest role. Those come out of the box pre-configured. Just a quick note here on the super admin role. You can see that it is grayed out. It cannot be modified. At least a single super admin role must exist in your environment. And new roles of the type super admin can be modified. I mean, if I have another role with the type of super admin, it can be modified and deleted. Each one of these roles, they have the maximum allowed permissions per user type. What does it mean? The admin role here, it's set at its maximum. So if you want to change it, you can't give more power to it unless you change its user type for super admin. Let's take a better look. How does it work actually? In Zabbix, we have three types of users. We have super admin user, we have admin user, and we have the common user. Super admin user is able to have unlimited access to Zabbix. The admin user can change monitoring and configurations. And the Zabbix user has limited access to collected data only. So, okay, let's see what is the relation with this and the roles. As I said before, each of these roles have the maximum allowed access per user type. Let's see at these two pictures here. We have the admin role and the user role. You can see that both of them have the user type here. And on this drop down, we can select the user type, the ones that we just saw. We can select super admin, admin, and user. And their access are limited by the user type. You see here that we have some grayed out checkbox for this guy, and it's different from this guy because the user type admin has more privileges, has more access to UI elements, while the user doesn't need to have access to configuration or administration, and even to report section, it doesn't have a lot of access to the UI elements there. We can go even further with restriction. If I want to make this user here, this user role here, he's set at its maximum. I cannot change it. I cannot give more power to it unless I change it to the user type of admin. But I can go further with the restrictions. We can restrict it even more. Here, I create a new role called restricted elements and only enable these two checkboxes at the monitoring section. This means that this role only have access to these two elements. When I assign it to a user, this role to a user, we can see here that this is all he's enabled to see. And when I log in with it, you can see that this is what he will be presented on his front end. So when you are talking about roles, we are talking about access to features, to elements, to some actions, to the API on Zabbix. Where does permission get in? Okay, let's take a look at permissions. So far, we have that the user role defines which part of the UI, which API methods and actions. I'll be showing you this with more detail soon. The user is available to use, but it doesn't mean that such user will have total access to the host data. The access to any host data in Zabbix is granted to user groups, not the user itself. And if the user group is granted access to a host group, not to singular hosts. So you have a host group that can be accessed by a user group. Here we can see at the screen, we are setting configurations for a user group. And we are saying that he is allowed to read every information on hosts on these groups. So it's a group to group relation. It's not about, I'm not supposed to give access to to a user to a singular host. No, that's not how it works. Moving forward, and with all these features, it is possible to maintain a more secure and segregated environment for your team. I mean, you can literally separate your customers, your like IT teams to access just what they need to access. And you can do it inside the same Zabbix environment. And this is a really cool, secure feature. But when the matter is security, we cannot stop thinking about the weakest link, the user. I'm not talking about the Zabbix user. I'm not talking about the admin user. I'm talking about the real person. We humans are doomed to fail. So the monitor data is yours or your client's. And looking for a more secure Zabbix environment, Zabbix 6.0 LTS comes with the possibility to configure custom password policies. What we can do with this? We can restrict users to use a minimum password length, defining requirements such as your password must have an uppercase and a lowercase Latin letter. It must have a digit. It must have a special character. This seems extremely simple feature, but it is too powerful. Try to figure that your user who works with security knows what I'm talking about. When you have a user, he is not gonna bother to create a complex password. No, he just wants to get easy passwords like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, his name. It happens a lot. And this is a huge security breach. And with this feature, we are able to restrict that. We are able to restrict that and tell the user, no, you need to comply with this policy. There's another feature here, a small checkbox. Avoid easy to guess passwords. It gives the possibility of don't allow the user to use his own name or surname or even his own username on the password. It forbids him. So let's take a look here at the real thing. Let's take a look at the real thing. I have this Zabbix environment here set. And let me just show you, I'm using my admin account. Let me just show you what I have configured here. I have 4 hosts plus Zabbix server. And these 4 hosts here, I have 2 in Europe and 2 in Latin America. Let's say that these guys are from different customers, different clients. And you can see that they are separated by group here. So let's see how these guys can be accessed. First of all, let me show you the feature for password complexity. As you can see here, I can define the amount of password up to 99. This is ridiculous, I know, but it is possible. And here are the details of what these guys means. So it must contain 1 lowercase and 1 uppercase, and it goes to A to Z, digits from 0 to 9, and these special characters. When I do this, even if I'm in super admin account, let me update it. Even if I'm with super admin account and I try to change like this guy's password, let's try to do here 1 to 6. I'm super admin and it won't allow me to change it. It must have 12 characters. So let's try here. Something like this. I think we have 12 here. And try to update. Now he's saying you must have a lowercase and uppercase letter. And unless I comply with the policy, it would not work. It will keep sending this error, cannot update user. you see, not even super admin is able to go over the law of this policy. So let's take a look at the users I have. I have the admin from the Europe client, and I have a NOC user from the Europe client, and same for both from Latin America. We can see here that they have assigned roles. Let's take a look at these roles. Here I have the 4 roles plus restricted elements that I created for show you some examples. But as you can see, super admin, it's hard coded. I cannot change it. It must be here. It has to be here. I can do anything with it. I cannot delete. The only thing I can do is clone. And when I clone it, I can create and delete it. So let's take a look here at the admin role. I want to show you a little more about this section. The roles are defined by sections. Okay, we have here the access to the UI elements, which I am defining what elements from this left panel he's going to be able to access. So I can forbid him to, even though he's an admin, I can not allow, I can disallow him, I can deny him access to the configuration. So this configuration set here, it will not work for him. It will not even appear to him. I'll show you in a little more detail in a minute. The second session we have here is access to services. If we have services enabled here, I can make a list of which services this admin can configure, can read or write, or only read. I can deny him the rights to read and write this service, all services. Or I can give him a read-only access to service. I don't have any set here, since this is not the scope of this presentation, but it's a possibility. Access to modules, if you have any modules, third-party modules installed on Zabbix, you can enable this user to use it or not. And access to API, this is huge. I can simply disable it. So this admin role won't have access to anything of the API, or I can set a list of what he can do, what he cannot. When I clicking select here, we can see all the methods available on the Zabbix API. So we have it all here. And I can just select some of them here and put them in my deny list. Everything else is accessible by this role, except these methods. Or I can deny everything else but these 4 guys here. So you can do a lot with this, with the API. You can mess with all the methods. You can select all of them. You can really play with this. It's up to you. When I just leave the deny list empty, I'm saying that all the methods are available. And here we have the access to actions. What is this? With this, I'm telling that this role is able to create and edit dashboards, is to create and edit maps, maintenance, to add problem comments, change severity from problems, acknowledge problems, close problems, execute scripts, manage API tokens, schedule reports, and SLA. He can have it all, or I can just change as I want. Let me show how the standard view is. Let's get back to users. And I'm going to be logging in with this user here. Okay, here's the admin view. You see, he's using the admin role. So he has full access to all admin user type elements. So he can go to configurations, he can see anything here from his group's host. He cannot see anything else from his groups. I'm gonna be in detail with it too. He can see the services, inventories, reports, configurations, discovery configurations. He can see the discovered list that of devices that were discovered by a discovery rule, problems, and so on. Let's now sign on with the NOC user. So you can see that the only difference between these two right now is that he cannot see the configurations. But in services here, he's only allowed to see services and SLA reports. As we can see here in the user host, for user ho here, he's not available to get anything from service actions and SLA. If I restrict this and see, I just removed services, so he won't be able to do anything with services. And I update here and I refresh the page, no services. See, this is a great way to keep a clean environment for your customers, for your users. So let me show you a more restricted user here. So I have these restricted elements, right? This row here, and it's assigned to one of my users. This NOC from Latin America. Let's take a look at how it looks. So all he has is dashboarding problems. He can do anything else. He has a view of his dashboard, and he has these common utilities here where he can see his user profile, change his password, and all, but he's really restricted to this part of Zabbix. Let's try to give this guy some more credits, right? Let's add latest data and hosts here. And let's also get rid of change severity. I don't want the simple NOC users changing severity or closing problems. I don't want them to do this. Let's get back there and simply refresh. And now he has access to hosts and latest data. But wait, where are the hosts? Remember, the host data is not accessible just because you have a row. Row gives you access to Zabbix features. Permission to read data from hosts are set on user groups being allowed to read data from host groups. So let's check this user here. He's in a group. Okay, he's in a group. He's assigned to a group. And here in permissions, we can see that he has no permission at all. Let's take a look at that group. I go to user groups and I'll select Latin Office NOC team. It's his group. Here in permissions, we can see that same information. He has no host groups assigned to this user group. Okay, let's try assign it. I click select, and I want him to work with the hosts from his office in Latin America. So I'll select it. And this is a trick issue. There's an add button. If I just click update, nothing will happen. You have to add here. You click add. Wait, nothing happened. Is it a bug? No. Another little thing to pay attention to. I select it and I have to set a permission type. If I leave it none, nothing will happen because it's none. None is none. So when I click here, I have to at least give him deny, and he will be added. And you can see here that the user group has this little green LED saying that this group has permissions on host groups. And here you can see, let's give read data, since deny, we can't do anything with deny. It's just there, but he can do anything with this information. Let's update it. And here we can see that it is updated. It is still here. Nothing disappeared. And when I get back to my user here, I go to dashboards, and now we have the data of the user because he is allowed. The permission to see data from hosts is allowed by the user group that he's in. If I accidentally happen to add this, let me see here, configuration, host groups. If I accidentally happen to allow this guy into this group, there will be problems because let me just show you this. Host groups, at an office, okay. Let's get this guy here and I'll add him to the Latin office. Now, this host is also, he's part of two groups, right? You can see here, him and here. Since he's part of this group now, he's visible to this guy. Well, not in this dashboard, but here, he's visible to this guy. We don't want this. So this is the best practice to keep your customers or your teams separated by groups, and the hosts they will access in the same way. Oops. Let me get this guy out of here. Oh, wait, I messed up. Sorry. We got. And now we have it as it is supposed to be. So from here on, you can play a lot with these features. You see, you can separate your customers, you can separate your IT teams, you can limit access to your junior users so they don't keep wasting time. Like this is all they need to work, this right here. This is all they need to work. So no need to just, let's say, to add to this guy here. I don't want this guy to see inventory information. So let's say it's not even a requirement from this customer. Why do I need to have this? No, I can simply get rid of it, changing that checkbox on the rows. And guys, that's pretty much it for this presentation. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I hope that you guys have enjoyed this. And before we go to the questions, I want to tell you about our Zabbix training courses that we have available on Zabbix. If you don't know it already, you can go to zabbix.com/training. We offer these 4 courses. Some of them are pretty easy, like Zabbix certified user, that are directed to the Zabbix user, those one that will only like use Zabbix, not configured, not administrated. From a specialist and professional, you have more complexity. It's more a high level, and they take a little bit longer. Specialists like in entry level for administration on Zabbix, and professional is more like a advanced. And you can see here that to do professional, you need to get the specialist, and the same goes to the experts. You need to have these requirements here, and the expert is the top one, where you need to you see like the insides of Zabbix. You get to know the details of how it works. Not only that, we also have available extra training. We also have here the automation and integration. We have the Zabbix data pre-processing. Sorry. Can I limit access to historic metrics for a client in multi-tenant environment? Okay, just a second, I'll be there. Admin Zabbix security administration and anomaly detection. These are really specific subjects. Then you can have access to them on our trainings in zabbix.com/training. So let's take a look at the questions that you guys are making here. Let's see. Anonymous attendee, how can we provide access to view the configuration in the read-only mode? Is any ways to do it? I mean that nowadays we have to provide read-write permission for hosts to users, because if we provide read-only access, users don't see those hosts in the configuration section. Well, I believe this was answered during the presentation. Let me know if this was answered for you. Lucas, does you need to have admin role to use the API? As I show you, no, it's not necessary. You can set the you can give API access to the users as well. Does the password restriction apply to existing users only at the password change? Only the password change. Once you set the new policy, you have to ask your team to change the passwords. Actually, I changed the password during the presentation, and I changed the policy and I kept my old passwords. Is there an update training to update the Zabbix 6.5.0 certificate? There will be trainings for certificate to 6.0, yes. There will be trainings, and I don't know when they will be available, but it is soon to be. Let's see, I see that some of you made questions in the chat box. Let me open it too. How can I limit access to historical metrics for a client in a multi-tenant environment? Well, out of the box is not possible. If your client, if your customer has access to hosts, he's not limited to, you cannot limit his access to the historical metrics. Can I get recorded session? This will be available on YouTube, I believe. I can say when, but I do believe that it will be available. You guys have any more questions regarding the subject? Okay, so I guess that's it for now. I thank you guys for attending to this webinar, this presentation, and I hope you all have a really good Zabbix moments and experience with these features here. Have a nice weekend to everyone.